It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
For everybody with so many leaders in crypto, and I appreciate this great invitation. First, let me thank Mark, not only for his introduction, but as I said, for doing so many good things in so many good areas. This guy cares about things, and he calls me up about them all the time. Make this part of the world better, that part of the world better, etc. I also want to thank Sheila Warren and all of you for being here. Now, there's great enthusiasm for the Harris Wall ticket from every corner of our country. You can feel it, you can see it, you can smell it. It's gotten Democrats and Americans as a whole who are worried about the advent of Donald Trump so excited. And why are we here today? Because we all support Vice President Kamala Harris to be our next president, and we all believe in the future of crypto, as Mark outlined. I believe in my bones that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz will win this election. They'll lead Democrats to the majority, will keep the majority in the Senate, will get the majority in the House, and then there ain't nothing stopping us. Now, being here with you today is very important, and that's why I made time on my schedule here. Crypto's been around, of course, for over a decade. It's grown more influential than anyone could have anticipated years ago. Each and every day, as Mark said, it's not an elite thing. An estimated 20% of Americans use these assets, and this will only grow in size and scale. I believe that Congress has a responsibility to provide common sense and sound regulation on crypto, and we need your support to make sure that any proposal is bipartisan. That's the only way we get things done. Ultimately, my goal when it comes to crypto regulation is this. I want to bring members on both sides of the aisle here in the Senate together, create momentum so we can pass sensible legislation that helps the United States maintain its status as the most innovative country in the world. My goal is to get something passed out of the Senate and into law by the end of the year, and I believe we can make that happen. I think we should strike a balance for crypto between promoting innovation and providing common sense guardrails.
When Donald Trump spoke in Nashville at the conference and said that he was going to support crypto, he did us one of the biggest favors, because supporting crypto is not about increasing the bags of elite Bitcoin maxis. Crypto is not about the elite. It's about egalitarianism. It's about the opportunity, as Professor was saying, for the unbanked and others to participate and to have the opportunity to create wealth. That's such a huge opportunity for us, because the rest of us need crypto and the Republicans couldn't care less. They just want to see the Bitcoin maxis get richer. So with that thought in mind,
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin Live, your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, breaking news, culture, medic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. In the cold opening, who you heard was Chuck Schumer, leading majority Senate leader, and of course, billionaire Mark Cuban. And they held a Crypto for Harris town hall. This is the second town hall that they held. And I was actually in a Twitter Spaces yesterday by, I think their names are the Krasenstein twins. And the name of the space was Democrats for Crypto. David Magoo and David Bailey, CEO of BTC Inc., also held the spaces as well. And the way that I'm looking at this, guys, is it's an election year. And obviously, the Democrats see that, Bitcoin is a hot button issue. It represents a major part of their voting demographic. But I'm going to continue to stick with the message that we've been saying for the last couple of months, the last couple of weeks. Listen, this was not made a partisan issue by the Republican or the Independent Party, RFK. This was made a partisan issue when the Democratic Party initiated Operation Choke Point 2.0, the support of central bank digital currencies, the proposed 30% Bitcoin mining tax, 30%, the attack on self-custody, all the over-regulation, the attack on Caitlin Long's bank, the Custodia Bank, the attack on pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto banks all over the United States. Just last week, the FDIC and the Fed sued one of the last remaining friendly pro-Bitcoin banks in the United States, Customers Bank. So I'm going to continue to stick with what I've been saying, which is talk is cheap, actions are expensive. And another thing that I also want to say as well is I'm quite disappointed in a way. Why am I disappointed? Because for me, it is Bitcoin over party. That seems obvious, but it's not obvious to everyone. What does that mean? That means that, look, if you continue to vote a party in that has been hostile towards the industry, and now that they're promising that they're going to change tune and you vote them in again, what you're basically doing is you're giving them a stamp of approval on the job that they've been doing over the last 4 years, and there is no feedback to change course. So again, until I see concrete action from the Kamala campaign, a lot of people are saying this is a reset. That was Biden that was doing all of that. Kamala is different. This is what I got to say. Until I see Kamala promise to free Ross, Kamala promise to be pro-Bitcoin industry, leave the industry alone, fire Gary Gensler. Talk is cheap, actions are expensive. Don't vote for the party that's been hostile towards our industry and is running on a trust me, bro, we have changed our minds on Bitcoin platform. Like, it's not a trust me, bro. So I got to say, Bitcoin over party. And what I saw yesterday in a lot of these spaces was a lot of people were essentially putting party ahead of Bitcoin, which to me is insane because Bitcoin fixes a lot of the issues that the lower middle classes are hurting from. And those issues are inflation. Inflation is devastating. It destroys your purchasing power. It destroys your ability to save. It destroys for your ability to dream about a better future because it is literally stealing your energy, your work, and your time, right? So if you're against Bitcoin, if you've been hostile towards the Bitcoin industry, that's what you're against. That's where you're up against. And instead of saying like, it looks like based on some things that she's saying and based on whatever that she's going to change her mind, but the actions are saying something completely different. And until the actions come out, I haven't heard Kamala say anything about this. Not one time. So nothing has changed. From my perspective, RFK, Trump are pro-industry. Kamala has been anti-industry. Until she comes out and says she's going to free Ross and she's going to be pro-industry, why should I change my mind? Which is why I said in the beginning of the show, Bitcoin over party, not party over Bitcoin. That's some fiat thinking in my humble opinion. Anyways, in other news, the corporate flood is coming. The institutions are here. This is one of the narratives that we saw in 2018. We coped, right? Bitcoin fell from $20,000 and it fell all the way back down to $3,500. And one of the coping mechanisms that we kept hearing back in the day was the institutions are coming. The institutions are coming. No, they weren't coming, but the institutions are here. Of course, we have Michael Saylor leading the charge, owning more than 1% of the total Bitcoin supply. You have Goldman Sachs, out of all banks, announced, it came out that they hold over $400 million of the Bitcoin ETF. So they have exposure to Bitcoin. Mara announced that they are following in the footsteps of Michael Saylor, and they announced a Bitcoin acquisition strategy. It was very successful. They recently completed a private offering of $300 million in long-term convertible senior notes to buy more Bitcoin. That was successful. The next piece of news, JP Morgan and Wells Fargo have also announced that they have exposure to the Bitcoin ETF. The institutions are here. Central banks. It's come out that the Central Bank of Norway and the Central Bank of Switzerland both have exposure to MicroStrategy. Therefore, they have indirect exposure to Bitcoin, because when you buy MicroStrategy, the way that I see it, it's really like a leverage long on Bitcoin. So this is absolutely massive. And I think what you're going to start to see this cycle specifically is you're going to start to see the incentives align between these huge, massive banks, central banks included, and just regular retail banks, and the rest of us Bitcoiners. Now, all of a sudden, the central bank of Switzerland works for you. The central bank of Norway works for you if you're a Bitcoiner. Marathon works for you if you're a Bitcoiner. Goldman Sachs works for you if you're a Bitcoiner. Wells Fargo works for you if you're a Bitcoiner. And JP Morgan works for you if you're a Bitcoiner. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about the aligned incentive structure. The state of Wisconsin Investment Board, this is one of the first states that announced that they were going to have a exposure to Bitcoin. They just announced that they increased their exposure to Bitcoin in their latest SEC filing. So the institutions are here and they can't get enough exposure to Bitcoin. Now, it's not spot Bitcoin, it's fake ETF Bitcoin. It's, you know, in the case of the central bank, it's not direct. I mean, I don't think they could do that, to be honest. You know how crazy that would sound? The Swiss central bank has bought the Bitcoin ETF. So, but they got exposure indirectly through MicroStrategy. So yeah, this is crazy. This is nuts. All of this is coming together. And of course, this sets up 2025 to be an insane year coming up. In other news as well, we're going to talk about during the numbers is also the gaslighting of inflation. Yesterday it came out that Kamala was going to try to impose price controls to stop the price gouging, right? This is a typical gaslight. The price increases are coming from the debasement of currency. It is not coming from companies increasing their prices. In a free market, if a company increases their prices too much, what happens? That creates an opportunity for another company that isn't increasing their prices to take some of that market share. So again, this is an educational issue. This is typical gaslighting. And again, guys, I don't think it's a coincidence that the same administration that is against Bitcoin is also gaslighting the public on inflation. That's just my opinion. Again, we have gone above and beyond to try to remain neutral on this issue. That was until they locked Bitcoin privacy developers in jail. That was until they started going after our industry with a metaphoric regulatory 2x4 for the last couple of years. It gets to a point where, you know what, guys, like, we don't really like you guys very much. You guys haven't been really nice to us. So anyways, wanted to highlight that for you guys. It's going to be an incredible show. I want to bring up my co-host Optimus Fields. He's wearing the dang shirt to the dang hat today. And of course, our guest for today, Anthony. Opti, what are we going to talk about during the culture segment?
Before I get to the culture, I do want to mention 2 points. The first one with, what's his name, Chuck Schumer. Like, the only common sense regulation approach, in my opinion, is just hands off, let Bitcoin do its thing. And you just love to see Mark Cuban and have Bitcoin maxis living rent-free in his head. You just love to see the Bitcoin derangement syndrome play out in real time. It's absolutely incredible.
Those comments were interesting, right? Like it's like some class warfare type of thing. It's like your Trump is going to enrich the Bitcoin max. That's not how it works. Like, Bitcoin is an equal. Like, Michael Saylor does not have special privileges. He has to get in line and buy Bitcoin at the spot price like everybody else. If he wants it cheaper, he has to mine. But mining is complex and it's capital intensive. So there is, like, a pleb is going to buy Bitcoin at the same price as Michael Saylor, right? So it's an equal, equitable system, as much as he would like to say otherwise. Anyways, Anthony, glad to have you on the show today.
Yeah, exactly. Super hyped to get Anthony. You got all the boys hanging out in the chat. If you don't know Anthony, he is a contributor. I think that's what you're telling me earlier. The coordinator over at StackChain Magazine. So
yeah,
TLDR, the people. Anthony, what is StackChain Mag? And then we're going to break it down really in the culture.
Sure. So StackChain Magazine is kind of like a community art piece that came from StackChain. And if you guys aren't familiar with StackChain is just a Twitter meme where years and years ago, a pleb posted a $5 smash buy and said, even on days where I feel poor, I still stack sats. You care to join me? And somebody replied with the $6 buy, and somebody replied to that with a 7, an 8, a 9, and it hasn't stopped for 2 years. It's created an enormous community, Bitcoin businesses like my buddy John, Proof of Ink, StackChain Magazine. It hasn't stopped.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, I can't wait to break it down in the culture, but let's get into the show, Nico. We're running long on the opening monologue.
100%. All right, everybody. Before we do that, I do give a shout out to our lead sponsor, best place to build your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack, bitcoinwell.com. Buy real Bitcoin, enable your independence with the fastest and safest way to buy Bitcoin in Canada and the USA. To get started, you put in your email address, takes 2 to 5 minutes to sign up, and you're going to start your journey towards enabling your independence. Bitcoin Well is an automatic self-custody Bitcoin on-ramp. What does that mean? That means that when you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well and then the funds clear, the Bitcoin goes straight to your self-custody Bitcoin wallet address. It does not allow you to leave Bitcoin on the platform. Every time you buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well, you earn Bitcoin Well points, and you can redeem those points towards the Bitcoin Wishing Well contest. We're going to do that live for you guys right now. Toss a coin into the well, and first person to scan the QR code on your screen wins 500 Satoshis. By the way, if you use promo code simplybtc to sign up to bitcoinwell.com, you get 3 tosses into the Bitcoin Wishing Well absolutely free for an opportunity to win up to 1 million Satoshis. Support self-custody Bitcoin on-ramps like bitcoinwell.com. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers.
The Bitcoin numbers.
All right, everybody, I want to tell you guys about our sponsor, Stamp Seed. Usually when you buy a hardware wallet, you get a little piece of paper, and that's where you write down your seed words. You don't want to do that. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. Your dog could eat it. Imagine losing your generational wealth because you didn't store your seed phrase properly. That's why we recommend the Stamp Seed Titanium Seed Phrase Storage Kit. Literally proof of work, stamp your generational wealth, your seed phrase, into one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium, letter by letter. It's easy to hide, it's fireproof, it's waterproof, it's dog proof. Your dog will literally break its teeth if it tries to eat the plate. So guys, you want to store your generational wealth properly, stamp your seed into titanium only with the Stamp Seed. Use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com website. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is $59,580. Sats per dollar, 1,678. Block height, 856,914. Blocks to halving, 193,086. Halving estimate, March 26th, 2028. Total Lightning Network capacity, 4,870 BTC. Capacity value, $290 million US dollars. Realized monetary inflation, 1.44%. Market capitalization, 1.18 trillion. Bitcoin gold versus gold market cap, 6.95%. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about inflation. Inflation is one of those issues that once we get the majority of the population asking two very simple questions. Number one, what is money? And number two, why should money lose purchasing power in order to function? We win this thing. That's it. It's game, set, match. They have absolutely no excuse for it. They have no reason to explain it. They can't explain it. So what they're hoping for is that the populace remains uninformed. Do you want to know why they're so against Elon Musk and Twitter? You want to know why they're so pro censorship? You want to know why the legacy media is absolutely losing their minds that independent content creators are getting more traction and engagement than they are? It's because the cat is getting out of the bag. It's a lot harder to control the narrative when it isn't just a handful of legacy media institutions that are in cahoots with the government, to be frank. If it's millions upon millions of individuals making their voices heard, then, you know, it becomes a free market of ideas, and let the best idea win. And you know what's a terrible idea? Money that loses purchasing power. You know what's a wonderful idea? Deflation. Let's make deflation great again. Anyway, so let's check this out. This was from a White House press thing, and they asked Jared Bernstein. I believe Jared Bernstein is part of the president's economic advisor thing. He wrote the report last year, where essentially they were trashing Bitcoin and they were promoting CBDCs.
Wait,
Anyways,
Nico, sorry, not to cut you. Is that the guy who was in the documentary?
Yes, that's exactly the guy that was in that. And this is exactly the guy that is responsible for writing the presidential economic report, where they dedicated 20 entire pages to just crapping all over Bitcoin and promoting central bank digital currency. So this is exactly the guy that was in that interview where they were just like, yeah, the government could just print money.
Like, wait, I don't know how it works exactly, but they print money or they buy loans. What's going on here? It's like, this is a top economic advisor.
I think they just have to gaslight you. So let's check out this question.
You said we hear you, but we've been hearing that message in some form over the past 3 years, and the fact is the prices are not coming down, they're going up. Debt is also rising, that's going up. So why should Americans believe the president and vice president?
Well, there's some prices that are definitely coming down. So there are airfares. Airfares are, hold on. Yes, airfares are lower now than when President Biden took office. So airfares are lower now than they were pre-pandemic. And airfares have been falling for about 15 months in a row, year over year. And of course, prescription drugs. If you look at prescription drugs, that's an area where we've taken firm action to lower prices. I would also say the following. We have more work to do. Prices are still too high. You have a point.
You said we hear you.
Okay. What are the first two things that people care about? Food, energy. Food, energy.
Flying on a plane.
How do I get around? How do I pay for the gas in my car? How do I pay for the electricity to power my home? And how do I pay for food? Both those things are through the effing roof. When the government is saying that they have more work to do, the best thing that the government could do as it relates to inflation is do absolutely nothing. In fact, it's not even do absolutely nothing. It's go away. Like, it's literally decreasing the size of government and decreasing government spending that is actually going to lower the price of those things. Don't believe me? Here's Elon Musk when he did an interview with Donald Trump on X.
A lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply. And if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services, that's inflation. So really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not sensible? Right. And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit roughly every 100 days. That's right. And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceeded the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion.
It's interest,
and it keeps. Yeah. A lot of people just don't understand.
So again, what Elon said is right. The problem is the trust. The problem is trusting that the government won't overspend. So let's say Trump wins and Elon gets his government efficiency, commission, whatever. That's just 4 years. They can lose the next election, right? And guess what happens? Maybe another administration. And you know what they'll do? It's very easy to get votes when you promise people free things. The thing is, it's not free. When you promise free things, what you're doing is you're printing the money. Therefore, you're stealing, right? So the free college and free healthcare and free this, it's not free. They have to print in order to afford those things. The US government spent $1.7 trillion last year, more than it collected in tax revenue. How did it pay for that? Well, the United States government has the unique ability of basically creating money for free that everyone else has to work for without the currency hyperinflating, because it is the world reserve currency. So none of this stuff comes for free. And all of that, what Elon is saying is a half measure. How do you fix this? Bitcoin is the solution to inflation. The problem is trusting that the government won't overspend. Bitcoin fixes this because it requires no trust. Bitcoin is the solution to inflation. And guess what? You don't have to vote or get someone specific in office to start benefiting from you as an individual transitioning to a Bitcoin standard. When you as an individual transition to a Bitcoin standard, your life gets cheaper over time. It's beautiful. It's magic. It's a freaking cheat code. I cannot even describe. People don't believe it. It's one of those things that you have to experience to believe. Like, I can't explain that enough. So this idea of, voting, right, which I think is still incredibly important, but going to government to fix a problem that they caused in the first place, and by the way, Republicans and Democrats are guilty of this, is naive, because everything that they do is going to cost money. If it's going to cost money, they have to print money in order to pay for it. Here's one of the latest articles, which I find absolutely hilarious. This came out on Bloomberg yesterday, August 15th. Harris will propose price gouging ban on food and groceries, also known as price controls. Price controls in the history of the world have never worked ever. What happens is if you install an official price by the government, a black market rate will pop up, which will be the actual market rate of the cost of the good. This is insane. This is crazy. This is nuts. And again, the other thing that I don't like too is the attack on private industry. Because essentially the way that she's framing it is, it's not us overspending. It's not us spending money we don't have. The fault is on the food producers and the grocery stores. It's their fault 100%. And that's why the government has to step in and fix it. Now, here's the thing. In a free market, if you increase the prices too much, your competitor is going to find an opportunity and they're going to provide the same good for a cheaper cost, therefore get your market share. The free market will take care of the prices in general. The reason that the prices of food and energy are going up is because they're debasing the currency. And if you're a business owner, you have no choice but to raise your prices, because if not, you're going to go out of business. It's like when they raised the minimum wage in California, and then all the fast food restaurants just raised the price of their food. And everyone's like, wait a second, why did the price of food? Because you forced to raise the minimum wage. And those businesses have to stay in business. So they have to raise their costs. Government is the single cause of inflation. They're solely responsible for it. It is not private industry. It's not private enterprise. Now, the good news for you guys as Bitcoiners is it's very simple. You can opt out by saving and earning in a currency that is inherently deflationary. It's unconfiscatable, and the government can't manipulate it to their advantage. Anyways, that's my take. Opti, what's your take on all this, bro?
Well, how far can I go here, Nico? First and foremost,
75%.
Okay. It's very, very simple here. The reason we're getting poorer is because they're printing too much money. The expansion of the money supply is what causes inflation. Inflation starts in Washington, D.C. when they're printing obscene amount of money. This is the root cause of the problem here. This is why we're Bitcoiners. This is why we love the 21 million hard cap of Bitcoin, is because they can't print more Bitcoin. They can't debase your holdings. This is the whole feature of Bitcoin. This is exactly what we're fighting. And the gaslighting that you see coming out of, the swamp or whatever you want to call it, is very telling. First and foremost, it just goes to show that most people are economically illiterate, and it's very concerning, especially someone that, considers himself basically just a Bitcoiner, just a, elementary Austrian economist here. It's like, it's very simple, guys. It all starts with the expansion of the money supply. And the fact that they've been gaslighting us, or rather, maybe can say brainwashing us, psyoping us for the last, I don't know, since the creation of the Federal Reserve, that they have to print more money to continue to grease the economic wheel of the world is just absolutely incredible. This just goes to show there's such an uphill battle here in trying to, I hate using the word, but re-educate our friends and family about how economics works. It's very simple. They're just printing too much money. And Nico, I know you said 75%, but I don't know how to necessarily say it 75%. Historically speaking, price controls lead to one thing, or rather are an end stage of one type of economic system. I will say it nicely as it is collectivism. You guys can parse out exactly what this is. So especially considering this like Democrats for crypto town hall thing, like I'm at my wit's end with this, like just give them the benefit of the doubt when I'm like, guys, it's very simple. Like we see exactly where there's going. You know, they can do this town hall of like, oh, we're for crypto, we're for Bitcoin, and then on the very same day they're like, yeah, we're gonna cap prices. I'm like, bro, are you kidding me? Like, are you literally kidding me? And then you go on Spaces and you're like, trust me, bro, like we don't know her official stance. I'm like, yeah, I do. It's very clear what her stance is. She's a collectivist. It's very simple.
Yeah, 100%.
I said it nicely, I think.
100%. 100%. We're trying to be inclusive in our.
I'm trying to be inclusive. Save yourself with Bitcoin. It's for anyone.
We did go ham. If you guys want to, we did go ham on last Wednesday's show.
Yeah, can I say it? Can I say it at this point? She's a Marxist.
I mean,
we had a whole conversation.
Look it up yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. Don't trust us. Verify it yourself. Anyways, Anthony, what's your take on this, brother?
Well, it's funny because we had a whole conversation about how Opti wasn't going to do that, and
I know. I'm sorry. I'm triggered.
So I mean, price controls cause scarcity in products. When you tell a producer what they have to sell something for, and that's below their cost, they stop producing it, and this is how you end up, starving entire societies, because if they can't sell the food at the grocery store because you're trying to get them to sell it below cost. That means they can't buy it from the farmer, which means the farmer's not, producing revenue for his proof of work. So he stops growing things. And the American government is super incompetent at things like this. So if you take a look at like sugar, they instituted price controls on sugar a while ago, and now everything is made with corn syrup. Meanwhile, the rest of the world just uses sugar, and it's just going to be more of that. So, but Bitcoin wins. Stack sats. I mean, Bitcoin is the solution to all these problems, and you can opt out and you can save your time and labor in Bitcoin, and you don't have to worry about if they put price controls on sugar or beef or whatever.
100%. And it's almost as if taking control over the means of production and setting prices. That sounds familiar.
It's almost like there was a manifesto written about it. Interesting.
It's almost as if we've seen this play out before over the last 100 years. Oh my God. It's not, you know what? It wasn't real all the other times. This time it's going to work. Anyways.
It's for sure.
For sure this time's going to work, right?
It's last time in America. It's going to really work.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Anyways, this is insane. Like, this is nuts. Okay, everybody. So now on to the bullish news. The institutions are here. Let's get to the news and talk about it.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, ladies and gentlemen, part of the revolution is taking self-custody of your wealth, taking back your financial sovereignty. And of course, you can only really do that with Bitcoin. One of the tools that you'll need is a hardware wallet. And of course, we recommend our sponsor, Passport by Foundation Devices. Completely open source, incredibly easy to use. You can pair it up with the Envoy app on your phone, and it makes spending cold storage Bitcoin incredibly easy. They also offer a concierge service. So if you've never set up a hardware wallet, they will literally walk you through the process. You can scan the QR code, check the link in the video description, and use promo code SIMPLY to get a discount on the Passport Foundation Devices hardware wallet. All right, everybody, the big news, the institutions are here. Holy cow. We were only, 2018, 2024. It's only like 6 years late, I guess. But the institutions are here. By the way, there's 1,123 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, and about 40 or so watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, make sure to smash that like button and consider subscribing if you feel like we've provided you value so far. Anyways, what do I mean by the institutions are here? Well, let's get to it. First, here's a Chad Saylor tweeting about Marathon. So Mara's strategic Bitcoin acquisition, very, very similar to Michael Saylor's strategy. Essentially, they raised $300 million in long-term convertible senior notes. They offered it in a private offering. It was oversold. And you know what they did with that? They bought a ton of Bitcoin. And you know what's going to happen? Their stock is not going to go up because the market is going to see that Marathon now holds a ton of Bitcoin. And you know what's going to happen once their stock goes up? They're going to rinse and repeat and do the same thing, which is what Michael Saylor has been doing, which is the infinite money glitch, the so-called speculative attack on the dollar. Okay, so these are two major companies, MicroStrategy, of course, Marathon, one of the world's largest publicly traded Bitcoin miners, and you know, they're just using the fiat system to raise money to buy more Bitcoin. Okay, so those are institutions number one. Now let's talk about TradFi institutions. I actually have a buddy of mine, went to high school, and he works at Goldman. And you know, he, out of like my 6 or 7 high school friends, all of them I've been able to orange pill at this point, but he has been the holdout. You know, he hasn't believed it. He's like, this is worthless. It's not going to worth anything. There's no cash flow, blah, blah, blah. And when I heard this, I sent it to him. He was just like 7 years too late. So the headline is Goldman Sachs holds over $400 million in Bitcoin ETFs. Now, what's interesting about Goldman is that they're one of the largest wealth management banks in the world. If you're a wealthy individual, a ultra high net worth individual, someone that has $30 million worth of wealth or more, you need a minimum of $10 million just to bank with Goldman Sachs, by the way, if anyone didn't know that. And soon, again, this is what I'm talking about, aligned incentive structures. We heard about JP Morgan getting the green light, or I think it was Morgan Stanley, I believe, one of the two, got the green light. It was last week or the week before, that their bankers had the ability to start pitching this to their clients, the Bitcoin ETF, start selling the Bitcoin ETFs to their clients. What do you think happens when Goldman is now holding $400 million worth of exposure to Bitcoin via the ETF? It's almost as if they're incentivized to start selling that to their clients also, right? So this is what I mean about aligned incentive structures. And now all of a sudden, if you're a Bitcoiner, some of the most professionally trained, smartest people in the world, because, you know, TradFi pays a lot of money, are now Bitcoin salesmen. Now, are they Bitcoin salesmen for spot Bitcoin? No, but they're Bitcoin salesmen nonetheless via the ETF. So insanely bullish news. Another example of the ETFs, the institutions arriving. So the other piece of news, Wells Fargo, JP Morgan report holding Bitcoin ETFs. Again, some of the largest banks in the United States, JP Morgan Chase and Wells Fargo joined the ranks of major global banks disclosing exposure to Bitcoin through investments in spot Bitcoin ETFs launched in January, according to 13F filings. JP Morgan disclosed investments totaling 731,000 in BlackRock's ETF, and Wells Fargo reported 141,000 investment in Grayscale's GBTC. So it's just a little, dipping their toes in the water. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Once you dip your toes in the water and that small allocation starts to outperform the rest of your portfolio, it tends to be a one-way street. You tend to want to get more exposure. And that's exactly what happened in the case of the State of Wisconsin Investment Board. Now, what was really interesting about the state of Wisconsin was I remember when I was producing, while I worked at Swan and I was leading their YouTube channel, I produced a show called Nakamoto Portfolio Gauntlet. It was with Dom Bay, Greg Foss, Joe Carlosari, and Hafa Zaguri. And I remember the episode where they had members of the Wisconsin Investment Pension Board or Pension Fund on that show. And a couple months later, I'm not saying it's related, maybe it could be, but a couple months later, the state of Wisconsin announced that, hey, they got exposure to Bitcoin, right? I'm not saying the two things are related, maybe they are, but this is incredibly bullish because now if you're a state employee of Wisconsin, you now have something at stake. So if there's any type of hostile Bitcoin regulation that could potentially hurt your bags, every single employee for the state of Wisconsin is going to go up in arms and say, wait a second, you're attacking my bags. This is what I mean about aligned incentive structures. You want to know why people that are pro fiat, pro the existing system, you want to know why Elizabeth Warren was so hell-bent on stopping Fidelity rolling out financial products as it relates to Bitcoin? It's because they don't want people to be incentivized by number go up technology because they lose. All they have is the coercive means of the state in order to force people into central bank digital currencies. They can't compete on the open market. Bitcoin's incentives are going to rule the day every single time. So this is the latest news written by our boy Nick Campmine. The headline is State of Wisconsin Investment Board increased BlackRock Bitcoin ETF holdings SEC filings. So they started with dipping their toes in the water, and guess what? They're like, number go up. Maybe we should buy more. More institutions. Central banks acquire MicroStrategy stock. Central banks from Switzerland and Norway have disclosed significant investments in MicroStrategy, a company known for its substantial Bitcoin investments. The Norwegian Central Bank has acquired 1.1 million shares, while the Swiss National Bank has acquired 466,000 shares. This move is seen as an indirect investment in Bitcoin by these central banks. Additionally, Barclays, the largest bank in the UK, hold over $60 million in MicroStrategy stocks. These investments are viewed as a significant endorsement of Bitcoin by major financial institutions. That is incredibly bullish. Now, why is this happening? Because MicroStrategy's stock has outperformed everyone since they've adopted a Bitcoin standard. And this is what I mean by aligned incentives. Bow down to the king. You're not going to beat Bitcoin. In fact, you're going to waste more money and more energy, and you're going to be significantly poorer trying to fight Bitcoin than just coming on the boat and joining the party. It's a lot better out here. So anyways, this is insane news. We have central banks in the game. We have nation states in the game. We have public companies in the game. We have the largest retail banks in the game. We have the largest wealth manager banks in the game, and they all have exposure to Bitcoin. Therefore, what do you think they want? They want number to go up because they're holding those bags. We have the state of Wisconsin. They have exposure to Bitcoin. We all have something in common now. Before, you could say we had nothing in common with these banks. You could say that these banks were evil. They fucked us in 2008. We got screwed. Main Street bailed out Wall Street. Now, all of a sudden, Wall Street's incentives are aligned with mainstream's incentives if you're holding Bitcoin. So incredibly bullish news. Bitcoin is winning. It's literally unstoppable. I'm so excited for 2025. It's going to be absolute fireworks, in my humble opinion. Opti, what's your take on all this?
Well, first off, I want to say Guys, can you hear that rumble? Can you hear the storm coming? Do you see the stampede on the horizon?
The stampede.
This is the gradually then suddenly moment we've been talking about, and we've been covering this for a while on our show, that these institutions, like, I know the Bitcoin meme of like the institutions are coming. Well, they're finally here, and of course they move very slowly. And as we're seeing, and I think I said this in the beginning of the year, or rather probably when we officially got the BlackRock ETF approved, that most likely Q4 of 2024 is when we're going to see some really big fireworks. And I think this is kind of, I won't say the smoking gun, but like this is that, like, you know, initial spark where now everyone is dipping, not everyone, but a lot of big companies are dipping their toes into Bitcoin. And as we saw with the Wisconsin's pension funds, like, they bought a little bit of Bitcoin. You know, the price hasn't really popped yet, and they're like, actually, you know what, we're going to double down and buy more Bitcoin. And that signal of the central banks, the European central banks, you know, getting basically a pseudo Bitcoin ETF by buying a bunch of MicroStrategy stock is very interesting. And again, this goes to what I've been saying for a while on the show, that ever since Larry Fink, ever since Uncle Larry came to the Bitcoin game, whether you like him or not,
Uncle Larry's the GOAT, bro.
Uncle Larry, pump my bags.
The GOAT. The GOAT.
But as I was saying, ever since that BlackRock ETF happened, it was, you know, for better or worse, whether we need politicians or Larry Finks of the world, it was a legitimizing moment in the Bitcoin space. And it just signals that we are maturing as an industry. And now that's going into every basically boardroom. All the asset managers in the world are now looking to Bitcoin as a legitimate investment. Yes, of course, as a Bitcoiner, we're like, okay, they're holding paper Bitcoin. Like, it's not real Bitcoin. We want you guys to hold spot Bitcoin. But remember, there's still a lot of obstacles for them to actually acquire spot Bitcoin. Remember all the stuff MicroStrategy and Michael Saylor had to do to get Bitcoin on their balance sheet? Well, all of that is going to basically get cleared up in 2025. So like, the stampede is coming. This is the gradually then suddenly moment we've been talking about. And for everyone in the chat that's like, oh, it's just paper Bitcoin, like, go check out Checkmatey's work on Twitter, and he's done the research and you know, he's followed all of the coin, and they are actually buying that Bitcoin. Yes, we don't know if they're rehypothecating that Bitcoin. You know, there is custody concerns because it seems like only Coinbase is the one custodying those Bitcoins. So like, there is concerns here, but they are actually buying up all that Bitcoin. And also the news story yesterday, Nico, remember we've been covering it for the last week of like, wait, the US government's going to dump Bitcoin now. Apparently, like, what was it? 10,000 Silk Road coins got sent to Coinbase. So like, this is why the price is being suppressed right now. Is shouts out to the US government for giving us cheap sats. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, they're literally separating money from state. It's wonderful. Anyways, guys, if you are selling Bitcoin right now at the moment, you are probably selling it to BlackRock or a central bank or a public company.
Also, if you're buying Bitcoin right now, you're buying the US government's Bitcoin, which is the real signal
Well
here.
done.
Anyways, jump in, Anthony.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, the fiat value is going to be whatever the fiat value is going to be. The most important number to you is your stack height. If you have more Bitcoin today than you had yesterday, you're doing it right. And that's, you know, you can't be concerned with these are all just like guessing games. Who the hell knows what BlackRock is doing? Maybe every Bitcoin on Coinbase is really just the government's Bitcoin. They haven't issued a 6102 for it yet, but none of that matters because the Bitcoin that I have in cold storage is mine. And as long as that number is going up, I'm doing it right.
100%. And wait, Nico, perfect transition to the culture today. As Anthony said, the only number that matters is the coin under your control and whether you are stacking and, you know, getting more sats. So let's talk about StackChain with Anthony right now. And this is going to be fun.
Absolutely, everybody. We still got the culture segment coming up. Guys, if you are enjoying the show, there's 1,300 of you guys watching live. Make sure to smash that like button. Consider subscribing to Simply Bitcoin. Follow our Telegram. Check out our Substack. And of course, subscribe to us on alternative media platforms like Rumble and on Twitter. We post rain or shine Monday through Friday, 12:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Smash that like button. All right, everybody, let's hit the culture. Lots to talk about.
The Daily Culture.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to give a shout out to our sponsor, the Orange Pill app. Stack friends who stack sats. Join the 11,022 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. What is the Orange Pill app? The Orange Pill app is a great resource to connect with other Bitcoiners geographically as well. So if you're traveling, you go to a new city, or perhaps you've been living in your city for quite a while and you just don't know any Bitcoiners or Bitcoiner events near you, that's what the Orange Pill app is for. You pull up the Orange Pill app, you'll see events and you'll see fellow Bitcoiners near you. It gives you the ability to send them a message directly, connect with them. It's also one of the best ways to reach me. I don't really answer Twitter DMs these days or emails, but if you want to reach me directly, download the Orange Pill app, send me a DM, and every week or so, I make sure to go through every single one of the messages and get back to every single one of you guys. The Orange Pill app is the Bitcoin social layer. Download it today. Scan the QR code or check the link in the video description to get started. Man, I'm excited about this. I'm a huge fan of StackChain magazine. I saw a copy of it. I forget where it was, dude.
Yeah, I was telling him to say, I think it was in El Salvador.
It was in El Salvador.
Or either BitBlock Boom or El Salvador.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing earlier.
I'm a huge fan of the artwork. Let's make them full screen for a second, Opti. Like, look at that.
They're saying you should flip it, but it might be a little late. So yeah, press S on the keyboard and the video settings will come up and you can mirror it. But we don't want to throw you off. Let's talk about StackChain.
There we go.
There you go. There you go.
All
Okay,
right.
cool.
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. So anyways, Opti, all yours.
Yeah, let's go. All right, so Anthony, let's start with just the origin of StackChain in general, because that will lead us into what the magazine was about. So had StackChain for all the people that probably aren't familiar with the work you guys are doing as a community?
So StackChain is a meme that just kind of had like an immaculate conception. And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but Arizona Huddle, he just posted a $5 smash buy. And he said, with the text, it said, even on days where I'm feeling, poor as hell, I still stack sats. Would you care to join me? Somebody replied to that $5 smash buy with a screenshot of a 6. And somebody replied to that with a 7 and an 8 in a chain of stacks, a stack chain.
Stack attack.
And it hasn't stopped. It's been 2 years. It's created a whole community. We gamified stacking basically. I'm going to say during the bear market of 21-22, I stacked 10 times as many sats just because of StackChain, a stupid little Twitter thread because I didn't want a Wookiee to win a Twitter thread. It's all bullshit. It's all a meme. It's just plebs having fun stacking sats, but the sats are real and they're all in cold storage. And more importantly, what StackChain is it kind of became like a beacon, kind of like a lighthouse for convicted Bitcoiner, because the average Bitcoiner doesn't have a podcast or doesn't work for a Bitcoin company, but we're just as excited about Bitcoin as Opti and Nico. We want to do Bitcoin stuff, and StackChain was a place where you could come together with other like-minded Bitcoiners, because most Bitcoiners are alone in the world. They go to work, their families don't understand them, their coworkers don't understand. We understand that we have this cheat code of being able to save our time and labor and the soundest money ever created, the scarcest thing that exists in the universe, as far as we know. And it's going to have all this impact and make such a change in society and improve our lives. And everybody thinks we're lame. And, everybody's like, oh, are you still into that Bitcoin thing? But when you have a community like StackChain, all that noise goes away and you just get to hang out with people that are as convicted about Bitcoin as you are. And then the end result is you do Bitcoin because of a little Twitter thread. I have literally traveled around the world. I was at the halving party in El Salvador, which is probably where you guys saw that magazine. I've been to Pacific Bitcoin twice. I just came back from Nashville, and it's just me and my friends just running around, just building in Bitcoin, building a community. And that's kind of what the magazine is. Just like I said, Proof of Ink is John's company, and now he makes shirts as a result of StackChain. He makes them with his own hands. They're not drop ship. Proof of ink, proof of work. The magazine was a collaborative art piece. Two of two of our buddies in the StackChain, Psyduck and George, saw that Bitcoin Magazine was doing ordinals, and we're like, all right, so like, it's Bitcoin Magazine. It has Bitcoin in the name, but like, where's the place for us? Like, if they're gonna go do ordinals, like, where's the place for like laser-eyed Bitcoin maxis? And they're like, we should create a magazine, and that's where StackChain Magazine came from. And nobody's getting paid. This is all volunteer. We don't have ads. We don't have sponsors. We're just plebs that want to tell our story or contribute art. And we're so blessed with so many talented artists that have been doing the cover. Like Log 4, the cover art is done by Maxi Club, who's amazing. The last one was the halving artwork from Bitcoin Trading Cards. Aladdin over there at Bitcoin Trading Cards is our buddy and such a huge fan. We're just extremely blessed to have so many wonderful and talented Bitcoiners contributing. And that's what this is. It's StackChain Magazine is like a collaborative community art project where Bitcoin artists and plebs can tell their story. This is by plebs for plebs. The magazine is limited in edition, so we only print a certain amount, and when they sell out, they sell out. We do not reprint. And yeah, we do have a website. The articles do end up online, but like you guys said, you're taking a look at the magazine. The articles are just the text. It's not like a PDF. And the magazine is an art piece. It's an amazing art piece. Like, this magazine literally could not exist without Bitcoin. The designer of the magazine, like the layout, how everything looks inside, how beautiful it is a goat farmer in Venezuela. And he just stumbled upon StackChain, and we adopted him. And then turns out he's an amazing, designer. And that's, so because we're just a collection of people that just love Bitcoin, and we love each other as friends, and we want to contribute to Bitcoin. Bitcoin is a social network as much as it's a protocol. Like this revolution only works when like actual people come together and do things. And that's kind of what StackChain Magazine is.
Love it, bro. And first of all, before I kind of pivot the conversation, I did see one of these magazines, and they're absolutely incredible quality. I was like impressed by the actual quality of it when I saw the first one. I think it was volume 1. I was like, wow, like this is like a very, very nice magazine. Like, good job, guys. But I do want to hit on two things. One, quick, do you know what the StackChain number is at right now? Like, what are the StackChain buys? Because you said it elevates, right? So everyone is bigger than the last one. So I haven't been up to date on all the things that the StackChain, the actual chain, is doing. But what's the buy at today?
So I think it's at 1928, I want to say.
Amazing.
And a lot of people can't hang with StackChain for too long, because once you get into the notification, it's like a bomb. It's like a notification bomb, which for some of us, that's like part of the fun. Like, as soon as you get in there, your notifications get blown out. Bitcoin Twitter just kind of disappears, and your whole your whole X experience becomes like StackChain, and everything else just kind of goes away. So a lot of people, they jump in there, they get the notification bomb, they enjoy it for a while, and then they bounce. The other thing about StackChain is like there's no rules, nobody's in charge, so it kind of forks, just like Bitcoin can have a chain split. If people are stacking on the StackChain and they prefer to go a different like direction, they can just like build their own little chain, and the chain kind of decides like whether if other StackChainers decide that they want to stack there, then that becomes the just like Bitcoin, right? Like if you have a fork of Bitcoin, it's the nodes and it's the users who are going to decide what the genuine version of Bitcoin is, and StackChain is very much like that.
Love it. Okay, Anthony, we did talk about this earlier, so it's not me putting you on the spot, but I did know, or you did tell me that you wanted to hit on some of the FUD about the StackChain movement. So what would you say to the people out there saying that StackChain is dumb because you're doxing your buys?
I would say you bring up a very good point, but go fuck yourself. like basically this is how we play with our Bitcoin. So like you're a grown ass man on the internet. You're going to tell other grown ass men like what to do with their, with their stacks. I mean, Bitcoin is for everybody, and we just choose to do this. And I wouldn't take it back for anything. Like this is literally one of the best things that's ever happened in my life. Like some of my best friends I met through StackChain. Like I said earlier, I've traveled all over the world. This magazine, I love this magazine because like this is us. Like I'm not a salesperson, but I can come up here and I can talk about this for hours because this is me and my friends and other I love Bitcoiners. Like you guys have this show, and your show is an intersection between Bitcoiners and maybe like no coiners and maybe shit coiners, everybody, because it's such a big show. And so there's trade-offs. You have advertisers. Like I just get to be with Bitcoiners. That's it. And Bitcoiners are amazing people. They do amazing things. They build, and why I wouldn't trade that in for anything. So a few like screenshots on Twitter that, provided me with all this fun, encouraged me to stack my ass off. Like StackChain stacked all the way from 60K down to 15 non-stop. We're talking tens of millions of dollars of Bitcoiners just smash buying Bitcoin and throwing it into cold storage. And I would say at least half of that wouldn't have happened if we weren't like in StackChain.
Love it, bro. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely something to like gamifying and having a community of people stacking. I know when me and Nico got in around like 2017, it was basically like American Hodl being like, stack your balls off, you'll regret it. And so this is kind of like a new iteration of that same era. But I do kind of want to pivot back to the magazine. So let's talk about the magazine and then what the roadmap is and how the process works, and if anyone out there can participate in the mag and all that stuff before we roll out today's show.
Yeah, no problem. Excuse me. So the roadmap going forward is we're gonna keep producing issues. This thing has caught on like wildfire. So if you're looking at the magazine and you're thinking that you want a copy, go get a copy, because we've already sold half of Log 4. The first 3 issues and the holiday issue that you got up on screen right now are completely sold out. Once they sell out, we don't reprint. So, we maintain the scarcity of the actual physical copy of the magazine. So if you're interested in getting one, don't wait. And then the next magazine, the next issue we're calling Round 5. We already have a cover artist. The cover is going to be by Maddox, which is, we're so blessed.
Man, I love Maddox.
We're so blessed.
He's taking so much of my money.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's going to be an amazing. And then we're even working on the 6th issue. So it's pretty much this whole thing is driven by plebs, and
love that
the excitement and the energy that people have for Bitcoin. That energy goes somewhere. And like I said, if you're not a podcaster or a Bitcoin CEO or something, that energy still exists within you. And as long as you're not a shitcoiner, and as long as you're genuine, StackChain is your home. Like you can come hang out with us. And if you want to contribute to the magazine, just hit me up.
And I have a question.
We'll figure it out. Yeah.
I have a question. So hit you up if you want to contribute, which is awesome. And we might just do that as simply because this is an incredible project that you've
open
put
invitation,
together.
Man.
Thank you so much. And my question to you is, I actually saw this question from XX in the chat. These magazines have absolute scarcity in a way. Of course, you could always print more, but what I'm trying to say is that you do a specific batch, and if you don't get from that specific batch, they're sold out forever. So how much do you print at one time? Like per edition?
Sure. So The first one we printed 210 copies because we had no idea what was going to happen. Like, are people going to be into it? Is it going to flop? And those eventually sold out. It took a while. So the second and third issue, there's also 210 that were printed. Log 4, this current issue, we printed 420 because Stack 3 sold out in like a month. So there's people that are like, oh, I didn't get, like, we want the scarcity, but like we also want people to like be able to get their copy, so we increased the print size on log 4, but yeah, I think that answers the question. I mean, once they're gone, they're gone. Like we make that scarcity is important to Bitcoiners. So we make that commitment to you. There's never going to be a PDF on the magazine online. We're not going to reprint. And I understand, verify, don't trust. So on that one, you're just gonna have to trust me, bro. But that's what's up. Oh, we had a holiday edition where we only printed 58 because that was like Selly was heading that one up.
Yeah, of course. Also,
I bet you those sold out like hotcakes.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Yeah, they sold in like 24 hours.
Incredible. Anthony, the last thing I was going to wrap it up, but I think just to like further the point of scarcity, tell the audience about the resale value of the volume 1 StackChain magazine. It's absolutely incredible.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't want to like come off as like a shit coin. Like you're going to buy the magazine and
this won't happen for everyone, but it happened.
But yeah, so I mean, people love the magazine, and people who got like like Stack 3 or Block 2 or whatever, they didn't get all the copies that they want to get. They're trying to figure out how they can get copies that they don't have. And one of the volume 1s a couple months ago sold for 1.3 million sats on the secondary market. Yeah. So
that's crazy, dude.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
No, that blew my mind.
We're in the wrong business.
I know. What are we doing?
What are we doing?
So that's a private sale. Like, people decide to do whatever, but the actual magazine itself, nobody gets paid. We're all volunteers. There's no ads. There's no sponsors because we don't want to be beholden to anyone. We want to be able to say whatever we want to say or include whatever content we want. So it's a StackChain magazine is a product of our love and energy towards Bitcoin. And when you open up the magazine and you take a look, you can see it.
I love it. And I believe it, man. And
love it.
And I've seen so many projects. Like we had the gentleman from BitX the other day, and
awesome guy,
very kind of similar, organic, and simply, honestly, it's very similar. Like I had no media experience whatsoever, and through trial and error, iterations, like you get better at it over time. So it's like these beautiful, passion projects in Bitcoin that you stick to, and then eventually you get funding or it becomes a business. Like it always starts as a hobby, and then before you know it, I had the same reaction. I was like, wait a second, like people are actually watching me? Like this is nuts. Like, so, all the power to you. And I think it's also like a testament of our movement. Our movement is so powerful that people just love Bitcoin content, Bitcoin, magazines, StackChain magazines, podcasts, music. And I said this, and it was actually quoted by The Guardian the other day. They were trying to shit on me. And it's actually not my quote. I actually got it from Andrew Breitbart, but the quote goes along the lines of, you want to win over the politics, you have to win over the culture, because culture is downstream from politics. Ladies and gentlemen, what you see in StackChain magazine is culture. That is culture. That is, if you want to define culture, there would be a picture of StackChain magazine. It is Bitcoin culture. It's embedded in it. It's in the artwork, right? Comes from the heart. That's what we mean by winning over the culture. So spread that message out, gift those StackChain magazines. And remember, this revolution is information narrative trench warfare. Magazines are a form of information, and we have to
Some
win
might
over.
call them pamphlets, Hey, I don't know. But anyways, Anthony, before we end this, plug the mag one more time, plug where people can find you, and last call of action.
Sure. So the website is stackchainmagazine.net. Probably the best place to get a copy would be proofofink.com, like ink, proofofink.com. John is the one that's handling our distribution as of right now and does a fantastic job. You can follow us on Twitter at StackChainMag. And if you're anywhere in Bitcoin Twitter, you'll stumble upon StackChain. So just
Beautiful.
say hello.
Beautiful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was the show for August 15, 2024. I'm your host, Nico. This is my co-host, Optimus Fields, and our guest today from StackChain Magazine, Anthony. Go to StackChain. Let me make sure I get that right. Go to stackchainmagazine.net to find out more information. You can get yourself a copy at Proof of Ink. Guys, if you guys enjoyed the show, smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. We love you all, and we'll be back tomorrow for the Friday edition of Simply Bitcoin Live.
Episode was brought to you by bitcoinwell.com, on a mission to enable independence.